Sure, Bruce. Thanks.
Yeah, I think Steve has a number of requests in the last week or so, and we just figured, getting close to the 20-game mark, we thought this was kind of a natural time for Steve to kind of have a, call it State of the Union type of thing. So no formal statement or anything off the top, but feel free to fire away.
All right, Steve, why don't you just start with an assessment of what you're seeing from your team through the first couple of months?
Well, we're 8-9-1, and they keep score for a reason. And do I think we've played better than that? Sure. I think for us to figure out as a group why that's our record is what we're trying to unlock. And for the majority of the games, I think to me and to most people, you look and the team looks and feels like not only a competitive team, but a playoff-looking team. And we've proven it against good teams. Now, we're still where we are as far as our record. So what is that? And those are the questions, and what's been addressed with the group is that we're still trying to figure out the mental resolve of the game in certain situations and how to be better in certain situations and games and how to deal with adversity throughout games. And each game is going to be a little bit different. Fast, physical, officiating might not go your way, as evidence a couple games ago. How do we deal with that? That's the next challenge for this group.
You knew there would be, I guess, for lack of a better word, growing pains. But did you think there'd be this many?
It's not like I'm not standing here saying that this is like this isn't I don't feel like this is a dire situation for this group at all. I think we've played very well. I think at times for long stretches as well. So I'm not standing here saying that this is, I'm not concerned about it. I think what we have done is we've identified that area where we need to improve, and whether it's, you can use all the words you want, like is it maturity, is it experience, or whatever it might be. We have to figure out how we can get better.
What can you do to maybe allow your team to have maybe that mental fortitude that you're talking about?
Well, that's where it's up to the individuals, and it's not one individual. And I know how this goes, and you're going to go and grab a player or two and try and figure out. It's each individual in that room that needs to step up in that regard. And we have some experience that's surrounded around this core group of players that's continuing to mature, and that's my expectation, that we get into tough situations and have the fortitude to be able to withstand it.
There's been some criticism over goaltending this month. When you evaluate that part of the game, how do you assess that?
Yeah, it could be better. I think if you ask both guys, we certainly have faith in both of them, and I think they've proven it. So I think and you can ask each individual. We have some players that are exceeding expectations and some that aren't, and that's how the season goes. You're going to have players that aren't playing as well for certain stretches, and it's up to us. And it gets magnified if you're playing goal. So, but it shouldn't be an excuse if it's not quite up to standard. It will get there. We know it will. We have confidence in that. But in the meantime, let's find ways to win those games.
When you also look at your new head coach, Travis Green, and just the way he's interacting with players and running things, how do you feel about his first 20 games so far?
I think I think there's phases in coaching. Like when the new staff comes together, what I'm pleased with is we've emphasized and are executing in one of the most important areas on the defensive side of the puck, which hadn't been here last year as far as just team play. So we've improved in that area. But there's layers of it, and I know they're looking to move into the next phase now that we have some foundation of good defensive play and fairly consistently of one part of our game where we've been consistent has been in that area. Now we're looking to add in other layers. But we've created an identity. I think in the games that we have played well, we have created an identity of being fast, hardworking, physical, I think it's a good start.
The word immaturity has been used. I'm just trying to piece together. You've got largely a veteran group. A lot of players have been in this league for a few years. Explain on-ice immaturity. What does that entail?
Yeah, but again, we could try and figure out what word works, but it's more, I think it's situational awareness, dealing with adversity. I looked at how many times we've given up a goal and then another goal within, well, a lot of them are a short period of time, but within 5 minutes, and there's a handful already this year. And that dates back to, you look at it last year during this time of the year, that happened last year as well. And you can go back to the year before, and that happened as well. So I don't know if it's immaturity, but it's something to do with the other team's going to score a goal. Sometimes things don't go your way. You get a bad call against. Those are the types of situations that I think we need to handle better.
Those answers have to come from within.
Yeah, yes. I think it's our job to address it, and it's identify it, address it, bring it to the group. The good news is like we have high character individuals, well-intended individuals that want to be coached. Now, and you've heard Travis speak to that, and it's true. Like they want to get better. So identifying this area for them, and they have to go through these experiences and learn how to deal with them.
You have the right roster built. I know it's 18 games in and you're not going to change or make major changes, but people are wondering, well, maybe this group isn't the one to get it done.
You're always looking at areas to improve. I don't see any glaring area where I think that this group needs a great deal of improvement because they've shown it. Now, about showing it consistently and the things we've talked about and what we've addressed, I guess time will tell. But certainly, I think every general manager is doing their job by always looking to see if there's anything that you can do. But I can't see one major area with this group because they've shown how they can play in certain games this year, and the majority of the games this year, that would need to be addressed.
Fans obviously expected more from Linus Ullmark, right? I think he's allowed 5 goals in 5 of his 10 starts. I know you're not the goalie coach, but what do you do to get his game, which appears not to be where it needs to be? How do you get it turned around?
I think his track record proves that he gets this turned around. He's a quality goaltender with a long track record of being a quality goaltender. I think they, like I was, when I was answering Claire's question, there's times of the season where a player isn't playing at his best. It gets magnified when you're a goaltender, but we have full belief that Linus will get back to full form. And there's a lot that's been put on to this player in particular. Every individual has things that they have to deal with as they come in, but a trade, a new contract, an emotional game in Boston, those, and I haven't talked to Linus about this, but I can only imagine, but we know he's going to settle in.
You've used the word improvement a couple of times. When you evaluate, like this team has been going through this rebuild for a long time. Is this the level of improvement you assumed would be taking place at this point of the season, or did you think you'd be maybe a bit farther ahead in the wins column?
I really do believe that there's been progress, and when I talk about internal growth that I talked about at the end of last year, I think there has been that with the individuals. I think there's been growth from a team perspective and team play, especially on the defensive side. I think that there's been growth with our identity of a team. It's a process and it doesn't happen overnight. But there's certainly encouraging signs with this group. And that's really my message. There are encouraging signs, but certainly there's areas that we need to improve in, and we're addressing that.
Social media and call-in shows are any indication. There's a feeling, at least among some of the members of your fan base, it's a here we go again feeling. And the suggestion is always, here we go again, so we need to make a trade. We need to change the dynamic. Explain to people why that's not always the best option and why that probably isn't an option at this point.
Well, it's fair to the fans to say that because that's sort of what we've proven up until this point, but it's up to us to change that narrative, and I believe we can, and I believe we will. As far as making, is one player coming in, one player going out, or is that going to change what we've identified as what? Not at this point. I don't think. I don't see anything right now in that regard.
Are the expectations too high by this fan base going into this season?
I mean, I don't know exactly what the expectations are. I think record-wise, we're below what I expected we'd be at. I think if you look at the underlying numbers, we should be a better team. We've played a little bit better than the record, but the record's the record, and this is where we sit right now. We have to have an honest assessment of ourselves, and I think that's what's changed here with Travis and the coaching staff and the accountability is we're not hiding behind it. We want to identify it, address it, and get to work on improving.
You don't make lineup changes, I understand. JVD fans want to know why he is not in the lineup, what he needs to do to get in the lineup. Have you had that conversation with Travis of what he needs to do?
Yeah, well, we talk about players, all our players, all the time. I think Travis Hamonick's played very well. I think he's bounced back from last year, and he's played very well. And we have a good young defenseman in JBD ready to break in and pushing, and that's, from a management perspective, that's the depth that we like to create. So, but ultimately the lineup goes to the coaches and what they're looking for. But I think it's a healthy situation in that regard, and we have some depth.
Nick Jensen in the offseason, and he's played really well with Thomas Chabot. How open are you to maybe having contract negotiations to extend him after this season?
Well, I won't speak about contract negotiations or talk of it, but certainly I think Nick is everything that we were hoping to bring. These are hard deals to make, and you project what you think you're gonna see happen. We like what Nick brings. I mean, he's a true pro. I think he adds to the professionalism of our group, certainly the competitive level, as you see on every shift that he's out there. And I think Thomas has benefited from that as well. So we're pleased.
The NHL commissioner was in town last night, and I know he spoke with Michael Anlauer, but did the management group have a chance to speak to him? Would there be any topics you guys would discuss with him?
Well, I was with Gary and Bill at the GM meetings just a week prior to, but I did get a chance to see them, but nothing really of substance. Just welcome to Ottawa, and so there was nothing to discuss really at that point.
Try to get a first round draft pick back.
No, unfortunately.
We didn't get to speak with the coach. Is there an update on Kachuk? He didn't skate today.
Yeah, it's a maintenance day for Brady. We just give him a day.
Are you in a difficult spot here because, how do I put this? You got a fan base that wants you to win now, and you're trying to preach patience. And how do you kind of balance that?
Well, I don't know if I'm preaching patience. I'm preaching that we address some issues as a group. So it's when a process like this is going along, it takes some time. And I guess I am talking about patience here, but some of the bigger mistakes I think as teams go through these phases at this point in time are to make decisions that are for today. As we move along, if there are some decisions that can help us today and move us forward as well, I'm open to it. I'm in discussions all the time about different strategies we can look at. But again, the group has played some good hockey and proven against some good teams that they're up for the challenge. So
I guess the sense, though, is that the time for moral victories is over. You've played some good hockey, but you yourself say that your record is your record.
Yeah. And that's what we've addressed with the team. Like, it's time to get the results, and we think that it's to find that consistency is to you know, is it your preparation, whatever it might be, but you got to be prepared to be able to play in these games for 60 minutes, but also deal with anything that may come your way during these games.
You've talked about team not meeting necessarily the expectations you had. Is it as simple as wins and losses when you talk about your expectations? Is it as simple saying we should have this many wins, or does it go a lot deeper than that?
Well, we look at all areas of it. I mean, ultimately, the record and getting points and looking to try and get into the playoffs is ultimately how you're going to be judged. There are a lot of areas of our game that we really like, and you know, I touched on that. So, but you know, we want to make sure that this doesn't. We want to address it, and we want to see improvement in that area. And that'll give us another evaluation on if this group can, now that they know that this is the area where they need to improve in, it gives us another level of evaluation.
Have you had a meeting with them, or is it through Travis? Like you said we've addressed it or we've talked to them. I'm just curious if you've gone in to have a meeting.
No, that's through the coaches.
All set?
All right, thanks, guys.